Everybody vibes with the all-new Camry. A standard 225-horsepower engine and an available sport-tuned suspension provide the power and agility to take you anywhere. And to do it in style. With available features like the two-tone midnight black metallic roof, color-matched sport grille, panoramic glass roof, and cockpit red leather trimmed interior, the Camry has never looked better. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it delivers up to an EPA-estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. Hello. From Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. This month, we're talking about adversaries, women who fought for their place in history, whether they fought to get to the top of their sport, against how society perceived them, or fought with each other to be champions. We're talking about women who broke barriers and sometimes did seemingly impossible or unspeakable things to carve out their place in history. Like the barrier breakers we're covering throughout the month, our partners at Camry are also inspiring women to seek knowledge, creativity, joy, and experiences that will continue to push boundaries. In literature, sibling rivalries can be seen as an old cliché. Today's Womanicans would likely agree, but that didn't stop their infamous feud. These two equally talented sisters became globally recognized writers. They were pinned against each other from the beginning, first by their mother, and then later the British tabloids. Please welcome A.S. Byatt and Margaret Drabble. Let's start with A.S., full name Antonia Susan. Her family nickname was Sue. Antonia was born first in 1936. Her sister Margaret followed 3 years later and nipped at Antonia's heels for the rest of her life. They grew up in Sheffield, England, and had a younger sister and brother. Their mother, Kathleen, was the first to raise the stakes. Kathleen told her children they would attend the University of Cambridge, right around the age they started to read. Kathleen was resentful that she had to sacrifice her teaching career to raise her children, so she set high expectations for them all. During childhood, Antonia and Margaret's relationship was tense. Antonia believed that their mother favored Margaret. That made Antonia feel temporary. Margaret said that their dynamic was typical. The older sibling found the younger sibling annoying, while the younger sibling held nothing but admiration for her older sister. From the beginning, Antonia was the writer and wrote all throughout boarding school. Margaret pursued acting. It wasn't until the early 1960s that the typical sibling rivalry entered a new arena. According to Margaret, she had no interest in writing, at least not until she was pregnant and she found herself with nothing to do. To fill the time, she pulled out a typewriter, sat down at a desk, and ended up writing her debut novel titled A Summer Birdcage. It was published shortly after and gained major popularity. Margaret was 23 years old. Her sister's first novel wouldn't be published for another year. In response to Margaret's sudden success, Antonia later said in an interview, "If I had not been a driven writer, I would have quietly given up when she first published a novel. It would have been much the easiest thing to do." Instead of quitting, it became a race to the top. Before, it was just their mother comparing them. Now, it was readers everywhere. For the next few years, Margaret's typewriter gave off steam. Antonia slipped into the background and taught at the University of London. Margaret soon became the more famous writer and published 5 more books by the end of the 60s. She also won 2 literary prizes. On the other hand, Antonia published 3 books in the same time span. And the feud eventually worked its way into the pages of her books. Antonia's second novel, The Game, was about a sister rivalry. In fact, both sisters pulled from their real-life experiences in their writing, which only intensified and extended their childhood dynamic. When Margaret wrote a family tea set into one of her books, she later noted that it made Antonia so upset. But their literary voices were different. Where Margaret tended to write about contemporary times, Antonia found herself in worlds of fantasy and history. While Margaret claimed they didn't read each other's work, the British tabloids continued to stoke the flames. In 1972, Antonia's son was killed by a driver the week of his 11th birthday. Struck by grief, she didn't publish any books for years and instead focused on teaching. In 1978, Antonia reemerged with her novel The Virgin in the Garden. Death and dead children became recurring images in her writing, but she also leaned more towards happy endings. Through the 1980s, Margaret continued to publish, win awards, and receive honorary doctorates from around the country. It wasn't until the 90s that Antonia finally eclipsed her younger sister. In 1990, Antonia published Possession. It was turned into a movie and won her the prestigious Booker Prize, and the tabloids resurfaced the sisters' feud. A writer claimed that on the night of the award, Margaret said she had bet $100 that her older sister would win. That way, Margaret could be happy with either outcome. Both sisters deny this happened and claim that they never really had a feud. Over the course of their storied careers, they each dabbled in criticism, short stories, biographies, memoir, essays, and wrote an abundance of novels. They accumulated impressive numbers of awards, honorary doctorates, and bans. Yet even when the sisters were well into their 70s, the tabloids continued to publish articles about their animosity for one another. A.S. Byatt passed away in 2023 at the age of 87. Margaret Drabble still lives in England. Between them, their family, and the tabloids, it's hard to say who was really in control of the narrative. All month, we're talking about Adversaries. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Liz Kaplan, my favorite sister and co-creator. Talk to you tomorrow. Everybody vibes with the all-new Camry. A standard 225 horsepower engine and an available sport-tuned suspension provide the power and agility to take you anywhere, and to do it in style. With available features like the two-tone midnight black metallic roof, color-matched sport grille, panoramic glass roof, and cockpit red leather trimmed interior, the Camry has never looked better. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it delivers up to an EPA-estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry.